Let's go with that. Morning, Rob.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How's everybody?
Morning, Jen. Morning, Emily. Or I keep saying morning.
Morning.
Afternoon. Midday. Cool. Wait a minute or two. I think there might still be some people joining. But, I just sent out an agenda a little bit ago, but if anyone has any issues accessing that, please let me know. And I'll also send a link in the chat so that people have it there too.
While we're waiting for people to come in, Clara, could we, I know there's some folks who were here last time and some newer
Yeah, we can do another round
people,
of,
so that would be great, just so I can learn.
yeah. So I will, maybe we can start with Bob. If you want to do a quick introduction.
My name is Bob Zager. I'm the Chief Financial Officer at Greater Portland Health. And in that role, I oversee IT as well. And we are a community health clinic, or a set of community health clinics rather, in the immediate Portland area, and exploring how we can be helpful here still, I think. So.
Great. Well, I'm sure there are plenty of ways that you could be helpful in this space. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, I'll pass it to Derek.
Hey, Derek Morin, the contact center manager at the Opportunity Alliance, and we hold the contract for the 211 Main program.
Oh, great. Okay. I actually just asked about our 211. I'm really trying to learn the who's who here as much as possible. So I just learned, or I just asked for our 211 contact. Would we go through United Way for that, or would we go through you?
I guess it depends on, I'm trying to understand, you mean like, is it in the 211 database? Are you referring to like your program that's listed there, or?
Well, mainly the program manager, just speaking to whoever is, who might actually be fielding calls.
Okay, yeah, that would be me.
Okay, great. I mean, you speak to people on a daily basis, so I would love to talk to you about what you're hearing from the community.
Okay, yeah, I'll reach out and
yeah, I'll follow up too. I
Okay.
was wondering just the difference between, so is 211 technically housed under Opportunity Alliance?
Yeah, that's a good question too. It's a program of the United Ways of Maine. It's an incorporation, so there's a 211 Maine Inc. that
Right.
the United Way owns, and they subcontract the contact center services.
Okay.
On an RFP or what have you. We've been doing
Right.
it at the Opportunity Alliance since it started back in 2006, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of how it works.
Okay. I'm getting familiar with these systems and networks. So thanks for clarifying that for me.
All right, I think we'll pass it to, you can pass it to Debbie, and then after you introduce yourself, just feel free to popcorn and pass it to someone else.
Hi, my name is Debbie Condello. I work for the Southern Maine Agency on Aging. We serve older adults, adults with disabilities, and everyone who cares for them. So we serve a lot of, low income, rural communities. So I feel like this is kind of perfect for us. And I'll pass it on to Meredith.
My name is Meredith Anderson. I also work at Southern Maine Agency on Aging in community services. So we do lots of over the phone giving of resources, and also support the family caregivers and do some classes, and do some home visits when people need more help connecting to resources. And really super glad to be here, and I'll pass it off to Amy.
I'm Amy Stone, Library Director at the Bridgeton Public Library. So we are in the upper corner, just close to Oxford County, but we are Cumberland County, but we serve a lot of rural spaces and a lot of the communities around us. We share library resources, but we also share a lot of health and human service resources. Oh, and I'm passing it along to Sarah.
We
might-
can't hear you, Sarah.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll go to someone else maybe. Okay.
Okay, so I'll pass it along to Bruce, who's next to Sarah on my screen.
Thank you. My name is Bruce King. I am the co-executive director of Maine Inside Out, and we work actually statewide, but I do a lot of work with incarcerated individuals. And I live in Brunswick, so that's kind of, why I do some of the work that I do there. Also on the Permanent Commission on the Status of Racial, Indigenous, and Tribal Populations for the state. And once again, we are statewide, obviously. So yeah, and I do have to leave early from this meeting. I apologize. It's kind of being my that's something I've had to do a little bit more than I'd like to. So apologize about that. Is it Almay?
Almeida.
Yeah, pass it to you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Gerson Almeida. I work with Sarah right here at Portland Adult Education. I am a lab assistant. In few words, this is me.
Great. So you're in the same room, I'm assuming.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Oh no. Oh, we still can't hear you, Sarah. That's okay. So both of you are from Portland Adult Ed, which is wonderful. Thank you for being here. I used to teach there a few years ago, so I'm familiar with, the program and the communities that you serve. So
Yep.
thanks for being here. Digital literacy coordinator. Okay, perfect. That's exactly who we want at this meeting. We'll communicate via chat and yeah. Should we pass it on to Jane?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jane Menarda. I'm a nutrition educator with Portland Public Health, working for Maine SNAP Ed. So you can usually find me in the city of Portland, working within the schools and local organizations. We're really excited to be here. And I was a little late, so I'm not sure who.
That's okay. I don't think Jen has gone.
Okay, I'll pass it to Jen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Alvino Wood. I'm the library director at the Windham Public Library. Hi, Amy. Just down the road from Windham, or up the road from Windham. This is the first meeting I've been able to make, so I'm really excited to get caught up on what's going on. And I just have a particular interest in digital equity for my community and ensuring that our community members have good, stable, high-speed internet. So, and the tools they need to use it. So that's me. And I think, has everybody else gone? I think I was last.
I think maybe Rob has yet to go.
Yeah, I'll
Rob.
go.
Oh, okay.
Yep. My name is Rob Klaber. I'm the manager of the Greater Portland and Springvale Career Centers for the Department of Labor. And just really interested in see what our role could be in this effort, as many of our customers that we're helping out from a job seeker perspective need some support, guidance, and access to technology and the internet to move forward with their job searches. So
Yeah.
looking to learn more and support this any way we can.
Great. Well, you've already all done a lot to support, so thank you for being here in the first place. If it's your first meeting, I think you're in really good company. These are organizations that are equally invested in this issue. So we're all, learning together and trying to understand the state's objectives. I'm brand new to this position as well. I'm the new community engagement manager for Greater Portland Council of Governments. And so I'm really learning about the envisioned community outreach process that the state has in mind, which is a huge undertaking, as some of you have already learned by now. So Clara and I have been working really closely on developing our activities for community engagement on this plan, for this digital equity plan. And so thank you so much to those who are already participating in certain ways and are also stepping up to help us with upcoming community workshops and stakeholder interviews. We can't do it alone because we're only 2 people. So it's really amazing to have you all here. So Clara, do you want to take it away and just give a rundown of what we're going to go over today?
Yep. Yeah. Before I start, I just want to give, I think Krista just joined. I'm just going to give her an opportunity to introduce herself. Hi, Krista.
All right. Okay. Sorry for joining late. I'm happy to see you guys again. As a reminder, I'm from Gateway Community Services, Maine.
Thanks, Krista. I'm excited. We have a really big group today, which is great. So our main focus in this meeting, I sent out an agenda a little before this, and I put it in the chat as well. But our main focus is, as Emily said, we've been putting together a community outreach plan, which includes a lot of different methods for trying to engage the covered populations. So a big portion of today's meeting is going to be going through that document and figuring out sort of how we can work together to make sure that we get input from as many of the lived experts of the covered populations and also organizations that serve those populations. So we'll go through each of our outreach plans, and I also have some updates from the state level on sort of the survey and some things that are coming up for our next meeting. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Emily to get us started talking about this. But thank you again for everyone who's here today, and I'm looking forward to this meeting.
Great. So as I said, this is a pretty huge undertaking as far as community engagement work goes. So just a reminder, this is a statewide initiative, and the Greater Portland Council of Governments is in charge of developing a digital equity plan for Cumberland County. But there's also a statewide plan being developed. So we are helping the state on both of those things. We are promoting their survey and also trying to get our own data, qualitative data, right, from the community and from stakeholders like yourselves. So it's really quite a fun process. This is a really great first project for me to work on because I think it's really showing me where our strengths are in terms of reaching these communities and also where there are opportunities to improve. And I'm sure you all have ideas on that as well. You gave us a lot of great feedback in our last meeting about ways to make sure we're capturing insights from all of those covered populations. And so Claire and I have really taken what you've said and created a a plan on how we're going to approach this in sort of a 3-step process. So the first way is through the community meetings that are coming up, that are beginning next week. And we've been talking about these for a little bit, and have some of you all working, some of you hosting, and then also working to promote those workshops. I have told Clara I'm going to keep my expectations for these workshops relatively low. Even if we get 5 people from the community to show up to each workshop, that's a win for me, because that means that we can get really rich feedback and insights from the individuals that show up to these focus groups. You know, the more the better. I would love to have 15 to 20 people at each workshop. However, I think no matter how many folks show up, we can really get good insight that we can use directly in the plan. I think Claire and I are finding that the one-on-one conversations we're having with people are really just the most rich in data and insights that really I can see being directly quoted in the plan itself. So I'll just go over briefly the 4 workshops that we have coming up. We're technically only required to do 1 workshop, and Claire and I said, well, let's do 4. And so we are doing one in Portland, one in Bridgeton, one in Gorham, and one in Brunswick, just to try to cover geographically all those areas. We wish that we could do a workshop at every library, you know, in Cumberland County, but we just don't have the capacity. So what we're trying to do now is promote those workshops both at the libraries where they're being hosted, but also at neighboring libraries where folks might go to access internet. So you know, Jen, it's really great to have you here. I'm doing some outreach to library directors across the county to make sure they're aware of efforts and can drive people to those workshops. So the other part of this is we realize that getting to those workshops might not be the easiest thing for people in the community. So there's another opportunity for folks to engage regardless of if they're able to go to the workshops, and that's through a one-on-one stakeholder interview that Clara and I are happy to facilitate, either, you know, via Zoom, phone call, or by sending them a survey that they can take on their own time. So if you are talking to members of the community who are interested in the workshop but can't actually attend, I just want everyone to be aware that there are other means of providing input for the plan. So we never want to turn anybody away from contributing their thoughts and ideas for expanding high-speed internet in Cumberland County. So that's just sort of a blanket statement. But I just want to show you all, and I think I can share my screen. Yes, I can.
Yep. Yeah,
some of you have seen this already. We have 4, as I said, 4 community workshops coming up. So the first is in Brunswick this coming Tuesday, and then we'll have one in Gorham, one in Bridgeton, and one in Portland. And so I've created this sort of toolkit for you all to share the Eventbrite, the Facebook event on your respective Facebook pages, and to access the graphics that we have generated to promote the events. So if you could, perhaps you're in charge of communications at your organization, but if there is somebody who is better suited to take the lead on promoting through your respective channels, I would love to either be put in contact with them, or if you'd like to share these materials directly with your communications folks, that would be wonderful. You know, our social media and our newsletters only reach so many people, and a lot of the people we do reach are our community partners. They're not actually members of the community themselves. So we really want to try to blast out this information through all of your networks knowing how much reach that you have collectively. Are there any questions on the workshops or these materials, how they're going to work? I mean, we're still finessing the program, but we really want this to be an opportunity for folks to share in a really safe space, so that they can provide really authentic feedback. So does anyone have questions about the upcoming workshops or ideas on how we can, make this a really productive program?
Is there any food at them?
Yes, there is. Yes. So we are trying, you'll notice that we've chosen 4 relatively different times of day to do these workshops, because quite frankly, we don't know how many, what the ideal time is for this kind of workshop. So we sort of distributed it. And so in Bridgeton, we'll be doing sort of, breakfast and coffee in the morning. And then, later in the day when we're in Portland, we'll be doing pizza and things like that to try to reel people in, and also for ourselves too, to be able to enjoy these treats. So yes, that's a great question.
Apologies if I missed this earlier. Is participation by like our staff as people who serve clients, patients, etc., desired at these, or is it mainly targeted towards us promoting these for, in the case of Greater Portland Health, our patients to attend?
I would say the latter. We really want these workshops to capture as many community members with lived experience as possible. We want to use the stakeholder interviews to speak with service providers. That's really the best way for us to have more in-depth one-on-one conversations, given your close relationship with these populations. So that, I would say, is the better avenue for members of your staff. And we can do, if it's easier for you to, gather 2 or 3 of you from your staff, we can do sort of a mini focus group with those folks, so that you don't have to all, individually provide feedback. Sarah, did you have a question?
I'm not sure.
You hear me?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, it was worth logging out and logging back in. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't put a question in the chat, but I'm just very visual. Would you mind sharing one of the visual things? I'm curious.
The promotional graphics you said?
Yeah, I would love to
Sure.
see.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Oh, I'm still sharing. Let's see. So actually I can also link directly, but I'll send you this plan itself with all the hyperlinks in it, so you can access information about any of the workshops, depending on where you're located too. So in your case with Portland Adult Ed, you might want to see the Portland materials. Let's just see.
Yeah, I'm not able to click on the links in the.
Right. Let's just, I'll show you. And actually, Amy, you're featured on all of these posters. So I hope that's okay. It's great. It's a really great picture.
I am totally shy and embarrassed about it.
Oh my gosh. Well, in the future, I'll have Tegan reach out to you beforehand.
No, I mean, they asked for permission and I gave
good.
permission, so.
Good. I'm glad. Are you all seeing my screen?
Mhm.
Okay, great. So this is, we have two different, we have a few different graphics depending on where you might put them. So this this poster features a QR code. So if you're putting them up in physical locations like community boards, libraries, other places like that. Sarah, I actually just went to Portland Adult Ed the other day and dropped off a stack of them. And I put them in the basement, and then there's a couple on the community boards. I don't know if there are any other places at Portland Adult Ed that would be good, but there's this one with the QR code. So if they're physical copies, I would encourage you to put those up there. And then there's also a typo on this. It says April. But yeah, we have to fix that. And then there's also another flyer that can be used on social media. And in this case, you would just want to link the Eventbrite page in your caption, essentially. The other thing you can do is we are sharing them on our social media pages. So if it's easier for your communications person to just reshare what we're posting, that could be a great way to do it as well. So these are the promotional materials. Bye, thank you for being here. I think he was waving goodbye. Are you waving goodbye? So those are the materials, and like I said, there's one for there's a set of graphics for each workshop. I will send you this exact plan so you can have the hyperlinks to all of these things, and then you can send them to your communications person as well.
So Emily, I just have to say, to put it into context, that was me trying to explain to him how he could not send a text message to his landline voicemail. So
there you go. Yeah, so it's relevant. I mean, I think, in a lot of the conversations that I'm having with folks, we're not just talking about internet infrastructure, it's digital literacy is such a big part of that. So, I think using the term digital equity is a more inclusive and, all-encompassing term. But those, that's really what the kind of things that we want to discuss in more depth. So I imagine, when it comes to more rural areas where, there's more seniors, those themes might come up more frequently in those meetings. Are there any other questions about the workshops?
We had a question in the chat from Sarah about translation services available at the event.
Yeah, so this is something that we are thinking through, and we have, so the tricky thing about this, we decided not to have a hybrid option or a Zoom in option for these events, because we really want them to be really personal, and also to minimize distractions as much as possible. So if folks are interested in participating virtually, then we'd rather schedule a one-on-one meeting with them as a stakeholder. So unfortunately, that means we can't provide translations via Zoom. We have a translation service where, well, first of all, I'll say that there are two members of our staff, myself and Marcel, who some of you might know, who speak French. So if there are French speakers at any of these events, that can be accommodated. But languages beyond English and French, we do have a translation service that we can use. We would just need one of our staff people to essentially work with that person individually to call a translator and set up sort of a space outside of the main group. An alternative to that is we can also set up a one-on-one meeting and arrange translation services ahead of time. So that's a really tricky component of these in-person events is the translation. But if any of you have alternative ideas for how to accommodate that, if you have resources at your organizations for how to accommodate translations in multiple languages, that would be great. We have the survey is translated into many languages. So that's always an option as well, if that's the easiest way to provide feedback. Does that answer your question, Sarah? Oh,
Yes, I think so. Just part of the
you're cutting out. Yeah, it's a little bit better.
That's okay. I'll reach out to you after or just have a few questions about making sure it's
great.
Clear whether something could be offered. It might be a welcoming factor to your like say what's available so that we can come in.
Yeah, and we actually, Sarah, thought about we've been having some trouble getting in touch with, the best representative at PAE, but we actually thought about doing a focus group there specifically, aside from this community meeting. So yeah, let's talk offline and we can coordinate something. Jen, did you have a question or?
Yeah, just and this might be more for Clara, something that was said earlier about seniors in our community. I wonder if we've reached out to AARP or any of the age-friendly groups. I know I'm a member of my community's age-friendly group, and they might be a good partner for surveying and getting some stakeholder information. So
Yeah, Jen, that's a really good point. As far as AARP Maine, I've worked with them a little through on statewide digital equity work. But I agree they'd be a great partner to help us distribute the survey and promote these events. I also wonder if Meredith and Debbie have any connections to the age-friendly communities, both working at Southern Maine Agency on Aging. Yeah, just wondering if either of you have connections with those communities that we could maybe promote these events through them, and also distribute the survey that way.
We do. My favorite name of them is Parsonsfield, is the Grateful Undead. That's my favorite age-friendly.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I just happen to be the website coordinator for our age-friendly group as well as our Facebook administrator, so I can make sure that it gets out at least to age-friendly Wyndham. But Patricia O with the would be a great connection for this particular group. But
great. Yeah, and we really just want to build those networks as much as possible. So would you be able to introduce us maybe via email?
Sure, yeah, I can do that.
Okay, that's great. And then Rob, did you have a question or comment? Maybe not. Okay. I thought you unmuted for a second, but
I guess I could just report out in terms of, we talked a little bit about the circulation and support of the survey and support circulating it out in different ways and whatnot. And just let you know, I did push that up the ladder a little bit to the deputy commissioner of DOL. So hopefully that's on their radar screen that this is happening statewide, and the state might be able to step in certain capacities and help out, might be able to tap into some of the existing resources we have.
Great. Awesome. That's really good to know. speaking of that, Clara, should I go through the rest of the plan and talk about some of the aspects of this statewide survey?
Yeah, I think going through the continuing to go through the plan and then having more of a discussion, including the other outreach opportunities. I think
Awesome.
would be a good idea.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll reshare my screen, and so really the goal with all of these outreach activities is to capture as many insights as possible, particularly from lived experts. So the next part of this, and this is what we would really love your help on, both in conducting interviews, but also, if there's a particular representative from an organization that you think we should speak with, that's a really great thing for us to know, so we can do that direct outreach. So with the stakeholder interviews, we are looking really to interview folks that fall into two different categories. So one of them being community members, and then one representatives from an organization. So within the category of community members, these are the groups that we're looking to capture. And we recently updated this plan because we wanted to make sure everyone knows that interviewees, anybody who we interview, must live or work in Cumberland County. They must be over the age of 18. They can choose to remain anonymous in their stakeholder interview. And also, we are not permitted to interview incarcerated individuals. So if any of you are helping with this kind of outreach and have the capacity to do a stakeholder interview, just keep those things in mind, because there are those restrictions from the state on that.
And one thing I'll add, so while we can't have direct interviews with currently incarcerated individuals, we can speak with folks who were previously incarcerated or organizations that work with individuals who are incarcerated. So we can still get that feedback through going about it that way. So.
Right. And we're really, that's kind of a separate effort that we're working through. So I don't want any of you to worry about necessarily approaching interviews with those organizations. But if you have any questions about what is fair game and what's not fair game and the restrictions around interviews, just please reach out and let us know. Sarah, did you have a question?
Yes, thanks. So I'm just curious. So Adult Ed is actually working with the Maine Connectivity Authority as well, doing some focus groups on digital equity, access, things like this. I'm really excited that there's so much energy around this topic. It's so needed. So I'm just sort of curious though, because I did not attend the first meeting. Our director was there and she's sort of catching me up to speed a little bit, but I'm just curious, are you all working together? Is there a collaboration there? And if this is repetitive work, we can take it offline, but if more people are curious or it hasn't been talked about before, I'd love to just know a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the Maine Connectivity Authority is basically leading this effort that we're a part of. So we're very much working with them. They're doing a lot of work on the statewide level. So trying to do focus groups in different areas across the state. And they created the Regional and Tribal Broadband Partners Program, which is what GPCOG is a part of, to make local connections and make sure that there were going to be specific recommendations from each county, just knowing that different parts of Maine face different barriers to getting online. But we are working with them, and I do know that there is an upcoming focus group at Portland Adult Education, and I will also be there. So I'll be attending and want to be able to bring any information we get on specifically Cumberland County back to this group. So yeah, so but it can be a little confusing because you might hear from us, you might hear from them, but we are completely working together and doing this work as a team.
Right. So we're working together, but we are in charge of developing the plan for Cumberland County, and they will use both our plan and other plans to create a statewide plan. So it's sort of this big puzzle that's just coming together. The other thing I wanted to note is we just learned that we can use the data that they get from their statewide survey in our plan, which is really great because that's going to give us a really great baseline, and it will prevent us from duplicating efforts and reaching out to the same organizations and same populations over and over and over again. So before, as we launch into this, and then before we actually start building out the plan, we're going to make sure we have a really clear sense of the responses that have already come in through that statewide survey, and then identify the populations that we still need to do more outreach to. So it's really confusing. It's quite a big effort, and there are I think there's inevitably going to be duplication just because we are working on the county level and they're working on the state level, but they know that they really need to go to local organizations to, like Portland Adult Ed, to really reach those communities. So please keep in mind that if you're hearing from them and from us, then we're all rowing in the same direction, essentially. But thank you for asking, because that's a really important clarification. Thanks, Bruce. Good to see you. Okay, so then I guess that sort of leads me oh, sorry, Amy, go ahead.
Oh, no, that's okay. I had a question about the printed survey. So I don't know if you're going to be getting to that later in the agenda, or if I should talk about that now.
Yeah, let's, I'll actually keep working through the plan, and then we might cover that. And if not, we can discuss at the time. So, and this, keep in mind, when I say the plan, it's our plan for Cumberland County community engagement. So I know there's all these distinctions that need to be made. But so essentially, within the stakeholder interviews category, we really need to speak with as many folks with lived experience as possible, but also we're just, as I said, getting such great insight from organizations and from direct service providers who are speaking to and working with these populations on a daily basis in their own work. So again, you could essentially interview yourself, so to speak. We have a form where you can directly input your insights from the work that you're doing. So instead of sitting down with us one-on-one, we thought it might be easier for you to just fill out that form on your own time. We ask a series of questions about all the different challenges, barriers, any suggestions you might have for improvements. And you can really take your time to think through that, and also speak to other members of your organization on what ideas that they might have. So that's sort of a twofold activity. And then if you are helping us with these stakeholder interviews, we would love it if you could indicate who you interview using this spreadsheet, and use the forms here to record your responses. So this will actually serve as a tool for you within the interviews to capture what you're hearing. And please don't worry about capturing things verbatim, just overarching ideas and those key insights are really important. Ideally, you'll be able to record the interview with their permission, and we'll have that recording to refer back to as well. So are there any questions about the stakeholder interviews? Meredith?
Do you happen to have any talking points about the importance of collecting this information? I just think about how many surveys come into our emails, and I'm like, oh, this organization needs it because of XYZ, but I'm like, do I have time to do that? Or like for clients to kind of, I don't want to say get the buy, but there's a lot asked of everyone in our world. And so like, because we all feel like kind of passionate about it, but just like a few phrases that would be like to kind of bring it home about why we need this. And my other question was about the interview forms. And are they designed to always be done in an interview format, or could those be given out kind of like surveys at an event for people to fill in? Like if there's 15 people there and we can't like interview each of them for them to be like, I have my few sentences that I'm giving you, and then people fill it out. Or is that more for the statewide one that Amy already asked about? Thank you.
No, this is a really great question. There are so many different ways to provide feedback, and so it's really going to depend on what fits your needs. So yeah, if you're at an event and there are 15 folks who want to do a stakeholder interview, please do not interview each of them individually. That would be insane and take a lot of time. What I would suggest in that case is to do a little focus group, and as you go, sort of, you could either use that form and capture all of those insights, or if it's easier, just give them the survey itself for them to complete it on their own time. And in that case, you would want to give them, well, it depends who it is, but if it's somebody with lived experience, we would want you to provide them with the statewide survey. And if it's a direct service provider, we would want you to provide them with our form. Does that make sense? I know there's like a lot of moving parts and it's complicated, but this is just helping us to collect the data in a way that's usable, essentially. And I hope it makes sense the way I've outlined it too in this document. So you'll have this to refer to and go back to sort of guide how you're thinking about it. As far as, the importance of this work, I would say personalize that as much as possible. We do have, there's so much, like anecdotal, phrases around, and we can certainly send you sort of a template email if you'd want, the emails that I'm sending out, I'd be happy to forward you as a template. But I would say when you are reaching out to organizations, just personalize it and say, well, for, the populations that we serve, this work is important because of XYZ. So, even in the first few sentences, just adding something that really ties it back to your organization and the work that you're doing. Are there any other questions about stakeholder interviews? The last thing I'll go over is the statewide survey. Okay, so with the statewide survey, again, we are going to get access to all of this data. So if it's the kind of thing where you have 15 people and they say, I want to participate, but I have to go, I can't stick around and do a stakeholder interview. Give them access to this survey, however possible. So here we have the online version. We also have the PDF for printing. And then we have a sample outreach email that you can use to send out. The statewide survey, as is noted here, is translated into all of these languages. And if any other translation is needed, you can let us know. But that should really cover a lot of ground for us. And maybe I even should have started with that, because this is really going to be the bulk of the data that we use for the plan. But it really is I think a pretty well done survey that the state has put out. I think the questions are really thoughtful. And so we're going to be able to, get a lot of great insights from it. Have all of you seen the survey? Would it be helpful just to show it quickly, or I can also, maybe Clara, do you want to link it in the chat for people if they want to?
Yep, just sent it. If you want to share your screen, or I can share my screen, I just wanted to show one thing about the translation services. Here, I can share mine. So just had a meeting with the Maine Connectivity Authority yesterday. They're still sort of working to finalize the translations, but if you go to the link, they don't have paper copies yet of these, but if you see right up here, it says English, you can switch to any of these other languages. They're still in the process of translating this like first initial page, but once you get into filling out the survey, all the questions are translated. So I can keep you all updated on when this is finalized, but just wanted to let you know that this is how it will look once it's ready.
Okay, I know we just threw a lot of information at you. So, and again, I hope this plan will sort of be your, you can touch base if you're ever confused about what's what. Also, please email me if you're confused about which form you should use, or how to facilitate interviews, or anything really when it comes to these activities. Amy?
So I have two questions about the statewide survey. And the first one is the print one. So I printed it out and I gave it to my staff because I always give things to my staff before we hand it out to people. And every one of them asked the same question. Does everyone have to answer all these questions in order for this to count? Because there's a lot of demographic information that is not related to broadband directly. And I know why you're gathering it, but when I have 5 different people ask me the same question, I just thought you should be aware, but also I am curious, does everybody have to answer all the questions in order for the survey to count? So that's my first question.
Yeah,
so do you have to answer them all?
That is a really good question that I will have to ask. So Maine Connectivity Authority houses this survey, and I'm not exactly sure how they're handling that. But I will check in with them, and once I know, I'll respond to everyone.
Okay, that'd be great. And then the second thing is,
I will just say, sorry, Amy, before we move on, you don't on the internet version, on the digital version, it doesn't require you to answer questions to move on to the next section. Okay. So my thought is that no, they do not have to answer all of the questions for their responses to be counted.
Okay. If we could have clarification, that would be great, because I don't want to tell my staff the wrong thing.
Right.
And then the second thing is, what is sort of the final date where all of this information needs to be submitted? Because I couldn't find that anywhere. So it's a good thing for us to know.
Yeah, that's a good question for Clara, probably.
Yeah, so our plan is due to the state, our Cumberland County plan is due to the state April 30th, so end of April. However, they're going to keep the statewide survey open for another month of May, just because they know that a lot of our outreach is going to be giving people printed copies that you'll then give back to us to submit online, and that's going to take some time. So they want to make sure the sort of official close is the end of April, but they will keep it open for another month to make sure that we get all those responses. So.
And we'll just use whatever data that we have at the time. But as far as your promotion, it can, right through to the end of May would be awesome. Yeah, Meredith, did you have a question?
I just had a quick question before we have to go on. But in terms of best practices for surveys, that we found like in person. If someone's given a survey, we're doing a program and they fill it out, like that was the most successful that I've seen about getting a response back. With when we've sent out resources for people with an email link to it, very little return on those. And so I just wondered if people have maybe from other organizations have had like, hey, we had a decent return on that survey. Like what were some practices that led to it?
Right.
Successful. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it's going to depend on your organization as well and the populations that you serve. You might have to tailor it differently. And so that's why we're hoping to work really closely with all of you to, tailor your approach and to come up with strategies for within your organization to make sure that we're getting not only I'm just a quality over quantity person in general. So my priority is getting really quality responses. And so I think that's definitely true. Handing it to them on the spot is great. Having copies of that survey available, especially for staff who are out in the field a lot, is really wonderful. The challenging part of that is like tracking down those surveys, right? And following up and collecting them and getting them back to us. So, I know there's a lot of moving parts there, and you might be, asking your staff to do quite a bit of, legwork on this. But we're here to help. If you want to set up a one-on-one meeting with us and think through those things, we can definitely do that.
I have a question. I have two questions. I spoke with our healthy living director, and she had mentioned that we would be happy to administer them to our Meals on Wheels clients if they were printed by you guys. I think you guys said you printed them.
Yeah.
Just because it's quite a cost, because I think they're like 30 something questions long, right?
Absolutely.
That kind of leads me into like the second question. Will there ever be maybe a shorter version? Because I think that they might get more back if it wasn't so long. I mean, I understand why it is, and I understand how important each question is, but I'm trying to think of how well people might receive it because it's so long. I'm just thinking of them. I know why I think it's a great survey. But
yeah, I wish we had more creative input on how the survey was developed. I don't know, Clara, if they're going to ever have a shorter version of it. I mean, this is really a pretty qualitative data focused survey rather than, multiple choice. To what extent do you have access, struggle with internet access, for example. But to answer your first question, would be happy to print as many copies for you as you need. Just please reach out to me and I will do that for you and I can deliver it. So I don't know where you're based, but yeah, any of you, if you have printing needs, if you're distributing them to a whole bunch of people, then we definitely want to help out with that.
thank you. Yeah, I had mentioned it to Meredith, and I think she was worried that it was a little long, just maybe for like our older clients. But I was thinking, I understand why there are so many, and I think each question is very important. But maybe in the future, if there was a shorter one, maybe some of the more pertinent questions might get more feedback. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think probably the state organization will, learn how they can improve the survey going forward. So we'll see. So I think I made it all the way through the plan, which is great. I know some folks had to drop off, but at least we got, the bulk of it. And please reach out with any questions as we're sort of implementing the plan.
Can I ask one more question? I didn't want to ask it because I feel like I clearly have missed something, but I was hoping to go to the Bridgeton one because I actually live in Freiburg. So I go to Bridgeton all the time. Yeah, woo, Bridgeton. So I wanted to go, and I know we're going to reach out to our communications person to kind of be promoting it, but like, what should we be, what's the goal really while I'm there? What can I be doing to be helpful at the event? I think I wanted to have more information about that.
That's a great question. I think if you wanted to be involved in sort of staffing the event itself, I think the more people we have to staff, the smaller groups, breakout groups we can facilitate. So just say 10 people come to the Bridgeton Library and there's 5 staff, then we could theoretically, have two community members per staff person, and then you can work to get their insights and record them more thoroughly than we would be able to if it was just a couple of us there. So you'd be welcome to help us in that aspect if you are interested, Debbie. You're certainly not obligated. Otherwise, you can just be there as a participant, but it's totally up to you how you would like to engage in that workshop. Just let us know, but we'd love to have you there either way. I'm excited to go to Bridgeton. My grandparents used to live there. So, and it's been a while since I've spent time in that community, but that'll be fun. Anything else, Clara? I know, are we good on time or?
Yeah, I've scheduled these meetings for an hour and a half, but with the understanding that sometimes they might go shorter, and people might have to drop off. But I think that was mainly everything that we wanted to cover. It was good to have some new faces here, which is exciting. And I guess the only thing is at our next meeting, and I'll follow up so that others know this too, we are going to focus a little bit at our next meeting on a vision statement. So the state really wants us to put together a vision statement for our plan. So hopefully we'll have a little bit of data at the next meeting from the survey, from stakeholder interviews, to help us sort of start building that vision statement. And we'll also be joined by Susan Corbett, Executive Director of the National Digital Equity Center, to give us a quick presentation on data and demographics of who lives in Cumberland County, sort of what internet access is available, what devices are available. So that will help sort of ground us in where we're starting as far as digital equity. But I think other than that, that's pretty much it. But does anyone have any lingering questions, comments, ideas, really anything?
As the online surveys start getting completed, will we be able to start looking at that data together?
Yeah, so the state is holding all that data, but I did ask them yesterday if we'd be able to access that, and it does sound like they can pull the data specifically from Cumberland County when we request it and send it to us. So I'm going to work to get that. Emily and I will work to get that data, the data of the surveys we have so far before the next meeting, and pull together a little bit of a presentation, visualization of like who we've reached so far, who we still need to reach, how many responses we have. We're up to almost 150 so far responses. Wow. They did share that with us yesterday, which is really exciting.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And Cumberland County itself has, I think, like the second most responses.
Wow. Like, yeah, third highest responses in the state so far. Great. So, yeah, and we have even more outreach coming. So I think those numbers are really going to get even higher, which is really exciting.
Exciting and daunting.
Yeah.
with how much data we'll have to work through, but it's all good. It's all really good stuff.
And back to the paper version, I can encourage, if that happens to be the case, I think we're going to be mostly digital, but if anybody's asking for the written copy, they could just go in and take the answers from the paper copy and do the survey as opposed to just having to send that in to anybody, right? And just discard or shred the whatever, the survey if they're done with it.
Yeah.
And just kind of cut off the middleman a little bit.
Yeah.
If you
We could
wanted
do
to
that.
do that, that would be awesome. That would be
Yeah.
really great. You're again not obligated. We can always input that information. But yeah, if you wanted to input it directly into the web form, then that would be great.
Okay, thanks.
All right, I feel like that kind of covers everything. A lot of moving parts for sure, but I think we're in really good shape. So
yeah, definitely. So we'll give you extra 20 minutes back to your Thursday, which is always exciting to end a little early. But Emily and I will follow up with sort of all the resources we shared. And as always, feel free to reach out with any questions. We'll have our next meeting 2 weeks from now, which will be April 6th, 12 to 1:30. So I will see you all then. And I will see some of you next week at the community events, which is exciting.
Thank you.
Thanks,
bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.